A golden eagle can crush bone with hundreds of pounds of pressure in its talons, yet it rests gently on the leather-clad arm of a human it has simply decided to trust. This is not a relationship of mastery, but of mutual, silent consent. Imagine the biting, crystalline cold of the Altai Mountains in the dead of winter. The wind up here doesn't just blow, it scrapes violently against the jagged, snow-capped rocks, carrying the faint scent of pine needles and frozen earth. You are on horseback, wrapped tightly in thick fox fur and heavy sheepskin, feeling the steady, rhythmic breathing of the animal beneath you as it pushes its chest through thigh-deep snow. Beside you rides a man whose face is lined by decades of relentless sun and high-altitude wind, his dark eyes scanning the vast, white, unforgiving horizon. On his right arm, resting on a heavy, Y-shaped wooden brace, sits a massive bird. It is blindfolded with a small, beautifully crafted leather hood adorned with intricate stitching. The only sound, apart from the heavy crunch of hooves and the creaking of leather saddles, is the soft rustle of dark, golden-brown feathers as the bird shifts its enormous weight. Then, the rider halts. He pulls a thin leather strap with a gloved hand, slipping the hood from the bird's head. For a split second, the wild, piercing yellow eyes of the golden eagle meet the vast expanse of the frozen valley below. You are standing at the absolute edge of the world, witnessing the ancient, unbroken tradition of the Kazakh eagle hunters of Mongolia. Welcome to Culture Journey. We have traveled to Bayan-Ölgii, the remote westernmost province of Mongolia. This is a place where the earth seems to touch the sky, and the borders of Russia, China, and Kazakhstan blur into a breathtaking, jagged wilderness of ice and stone. Out here in the shadow of glaciers, survival has never been a solitary endeavor. For the nomadic Kazakhs who have called these remote mountains home for centuries, life is deeply, inextricably entwined with the severe rhythms of nature and the animals that navigate it alongside them. Today, we are not just observing a unique or antiquated method of finding food in a harsh winter landscape. We are stepping completely inside an ancient pact between human beings and nature's most formidable aerial predator. To the local people, the practice of Berkutchi, eagle hunting, is far more than a way to find food. It is an intricate art form. It is the heartbeat of their cultural identity. And above all, it is a deeply emotional bond that spans across generations. It represents a profound, almost spiritual respect for the wild, a connection that requires absolute patience, understanding, and love. As we walk alongside these hunters today, we will see exactly how this majestic tradition breathes life into the frozen steppes, and what it teaches us about the true nature of trust. Let's step inside a traditional ger, a circular, felt-covered tent, just as the pale, weak winter sun begins to dip behind the jagged mountain peaks. If you were standing here shaking the snow from your boots, the first thing you would notice is the sudden, enveloping warmth that thaws your face. A central iron stove radiates intense heat. Out here, where timber is scarce, the fire is fed with sun-dried yak and camel dung, a vital, surprisingly clean fuel that fills the air with a distinct, earthy, and strangely comforting scent. The curved lattice walls are lined with vibrant, intricately woven tapestries in deep reds, blues, and golds, offering a stark, colorful contrast to the endless, blinding white landscape outside. And there, in the quiet corner of the room, resting on a sturdy wooden perch, is the eagle. It is striking to realize that this apex predator is not kept outside in a cage. She is right here, woven into the heart of the family home. The hunters almost exclusively use female eagles, known as Berkut, because they are significantly larger, stronger, and inherently fiercer than the males. A fully grown female can weigh over 15 pounds and boast a wingspan of more than 7 feet. But catching a wild eagle and bringing her into this intimate domestic space is only the very beginning of a long, delicate, and deeply respectful process. You might wonder how a wild creature of the sky comes to accept the close company of humans. It doesn't happen through force, breaking, or domination. It happens through shared exhaustion, profound patience, and eventually, a mutual vulnerability. When a hunter climbs the sheer cliff faces to take a fledgling from her nest, or carefully traps a young adult, he begins a period of intense, sleepless bonding. For days and nights on end, the hunter stays awake with the bird. He feeds her raw meat directly from his bare hand, establishing himself as a provider rather than a threat. He speaks to her constantly in low, soothing, rhythmic tones, and sings traditional Kazakh lullabies to her. He gently strokes her head and feathers. Slowly, the eagle learns the unique cadence of his voice, his specific scent, and the rhythm of his movements. The wildness inside her is never broken. Instead, a quiet bridge of habit and trust is carefully constructed. Through relentless patience, the hunter proves he is a provider rather than a threat, forging a rare bond where fierce independence coexists with mutual reliance. Did you know this exact process has been unfolding across the vast Eurasian steppes for thousands of years? Long before the modern borders of nations were drawn on maps, before the rise and fall of the great Mongol Empire, nomadic tribes roamed these endless grasslands with eagles resting on their arms. Historical texts, ancient Chinese chronicles, and petroglyphs carved into weather-beaten stone reveal that this practice dates back at least to the Bronze Age. When Marco Polo traveled through Asia in the 13th century, he marveled at the great Khans who hunted with thousands of eagles and falcons. As centuries passed and empires fell, this widespread tradition faded from the Central Plains. But in the isolated, unforgiving altitude of the western Altai Mountains, it was the ethnic Kazakh nomads who preserved this ancient art. The towering mountains formed a natural, impenetrable fortress, protecting their ancestral way of life from the sweeping political changes and industrialization of the 20th century. Step back out into the freezing morning air. At -40 degrees, the cold is absolute. Your breath instantly crystallizes, freezing onto your wool scarf, the exact moment it leaves your mouth. The hunters, dressed in magnificent coats made from the pelts of wolves and foxes caught by their eagles in previous winters, mount their sturdy, thick-coated, semi-wild horses. The ascent begins. The journey up the mountain is incredibly treacherous, characterized by steep, icy inclines and loose rocks hidden treacherously beneath the deep snow. The hunter carries the heavy eagle on his right arm, supported by a wooden crutch called a baldak that rests against the front of the saddle, taking the immense weight off his shoulder as the horse labors upward. When they finally reach the summit, the world falls completely, utterly silent. The wind dies down for a moment. The hunter scans the valley floor far below with eagle-like intensity. He is looking for the subtle, almost imperceptible movement of a red fox or a Corsac fox standing out against the blanket of snow. When he spots his quarry, the atmosphere shifts instantly from calm to electric anticipation. The hunter quickly removes the beautifully stitched leather hood. He lets out a sharp, guttural cry, a sound that seems to echo from the very dawn of humanity, signaling the prey, and violently thrusts his arm upward. The eagle doesn't need to be commanded. She spots the prey instantly with eyesight that is 8 times sharper than a human's. She spreads her massive wings and launches herself into the icy void. To watch a golden eagle dive is to witness an absolute masterpiece of natural evolution. She plummets at speeds exceeding 100 miles an hour, becoming a dark, silent missile cutting through the frigid, thin air. The impact is swift, precise, and decisive. The hunter immediately spurs his horse, plunging down the treacherous, snow-covered slope. He races to the valley floor to join his partner, swiftly offering her a prized piece of meat in exchange for the catch. But what happens if the eagle misses her target? What if she catches an updraft and simply decides to fly away over the peaks? This is the most beautiful, humbling, and surprising aspect of the entire tradition. She can fly away. Every single time the hunter releases her into the sky, he is taking a profound risk. There are no leashes, no tethers, no invisible boundaries holding her back from the wild. She returns to his arm entirely by her own choice. It is a daily voluntary reaffirmation of their bond. This profound respect for the eagle's autonomy is woven into the very philosophical fabric of the culture. The relationship is always meant to be temporary. It is borrowed time. After about 10 years of hunting together, when the eagle reaches her reproductive prime, the hunter knows with absolute certainty that it is time to give her back to the sky. This is perhaps the most emotional, heart-wrenching moment in a Berkutchi's life. The family gathers around the majestic creature they have respected as a vital, honored member of their household. The hunter then rides deep into the mountains, far away from any human settlement, to a high, lonely peak. carrying with him a final, substantial offering. There is no grand, loud ceremony, just a quiet, bittersweet farewell between two old, devoted friends. He takes off her hood for the very last time and leaves the freshly caught prey on the snow-covered peak. As the great bird descends to claim her meal, the hunter immediately turns his horse. He rides away quickly, spurring his mount into a gallop without looking back, severing the bond completely so she will not try to follow him home. She must remain in the wild to find a mate, to breed, and to ensure that the ancient lineage of the great eagles continues across the Altai. The hunter returns to his village with an empty arm and a heavy heart, finding solace only in the knowledge that he has done what is right by the laws of nature. Today, the tradition of the eagle hunters is experiencing a fascinating, unique evolution. If you were to visit Bayan-Ölgii in the early autumn, you would witness the famous Golden Eagle Festival, where hundreds of hunters gather in their finest furs to showcase their skills, racing their horses and calling their eagles from the mountain peaks to their arms. It's a vibrant, colorful celebration of survival, pride, and identity. But beyond the cheering crowds of the festivals, the everyday reality is slowly changing. The modern world is inevitably pulling many young people towards cities, universities, and the comforts of technology. Yet the ancient call of the mountains remains undeniably strong. We are seeing a new generation actively stepping up to carry the heavy weight of the eagle. And most beautifully, we are seeing young Kazakh women boldly embracing the tradition. Historically a strictly male-dominated pursuit passed from father to son, the art of Berkutchi is now being redefined by daughters and granddaughters who look up at the soaring eagles and feel the exact same ancient pull in their blood. They are riding out into the freezing, biting winds, learning the ancestral songs to sing to the fledglings, and proving to the world that tradition is not a static, dusty relic of the past meant to be kept in a museum. It is a living, breathing river that continuously finds new, beautiful ways to flow forward. As we slowly leave the snowy, wind-swept peaks of the Altai and the comforting, smoky warmth of the Kazakh air behind, we are left with a quiet, lingering realization. The story of the eagle hunters of Mongolia is not just an anthropological tale about finding food in an extreme, unforgiving environment. It is a profound living meditation on the true nature of belonging, companionship, and possession. We spend so much of our modern lives trying to control our environment, to fence it in, to predict and master it. But the Berkutchi teach us a vastly different way to exist. They show us that the deepest, most enduring connections are born not from ownership, but from mutual respect and absolute freedom. You cannot own a golden eagle. You can only share a fraction of her majestic life, borrow her wildness for a little while, and then, with an open and grateful heart, let her go. This tradition endures precisely because it is rooted in a fundamental, universal human truth. Our identity is shaped by the landscapes we inhabit and the wild creatures we are lucky enough to share them with. By keeping this beautiful bond alive, the hunters of Mongolia are not just preserving a cultural memory, they are ensuring that a vital, ancient harmony continues to breathe and exist in the modern world. Thank you for walking this incredible, winding path with us today. Our world is filled with these beautiful, quiet stories, just waiting to be understood from the inside out, rather than observed from afar. If you found yourself moved by the freezing winds of the Altai Mountains and the silent trust of the eagle, please consider liking this video and subscribing to Culture Journey. Leave a comment below sharing what surprised you most about the deeply emotional bond between the hunter and the bird. We have so many more places to go and so many more human experiences to share together. Until next time, keep your curiosity open and keep traveling.